1973, there was a conference in Colorado Springs, Colorado, where all the professionals got together, and we were discussing the book that was about to come out called The Grading Guide by the American Numismatic Society. They were trying to get some standardization in grading. And we get all through with listening to this for 6 hours. The whole group was, and we all had to a lot of them had to get back on planes because at that time, Colorado Springs and the rest of the United States were not really connected, if you want to say. There was 1 or 2 planes a day that went out. We got through, we finally got about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just so we had to leave. Who read it? And no officer of the ANA had read it. And the only one who read it was a guy who was involved with writing it was Ken Brissett. And Ken Brissett, very knowledgeable guy, but somebody had to correct it. There was things in there that were impractical. And they also went something silly. They took the word UNC, which we used to have in all the catalogs, which meant uncirculated, and changed it to MS, Mint State. Well, we said, one of the first things I said to Ken, when I heard something like this, I said, Ken, do you know how many people have lived since time immemorial with the word uncirculated? Mint State did show up occasionally in certain sophisticated catalogs, but Mint State, it would either say Mint State or uncirculated. So I said to him, why don't you put both initials down on top of the column? And it didn't. He was a stubborn guy, and if you know Ken, he's a very nice guy, but he was stubborn, and he wouldn't change. You know, I called him every day at lunchtime and said to him, Ken, when is it changing? And he says, it's not changing, I'm leaving it alone. And I kept on him for 2 weeks, and he finally says, all right, we'll put MS and underneath it UNC. I said, okay, you're partially there. Then, of course, he added the numbers, and there was no real explanation of the numbers. And you can't just hope that somebody had the book that the numbers were first developed by Dr. Sheldon in the early American sense as your guide to grading. So this was another argument that we had. And we, when I say we, the company and others like myself, kept hounding the publication because there was no real books out at that time. You know, Coin World only started in the 1960s, and the late 50s was Numismatic News. Those were the only weekly papers we had. We had the Numismatist, which was coming out once a month. That was published in the American Numismatic Association, and it was more on a technical basis and had advertising from the dealers. And then, of course, you had the Numismatic Scrapbook, which was short-lived, which was published by the Hewitt brothers, but that was once a month. And therefore, you didn't have, let's say, constant information like we have today. So by the time people learned about this, it would be time for them to stop collecting or not understand what they're really collecting. Well, they finally started to change all these things.